Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in this great wide world of ours. It is Saturday. It is 3 Eastern, which means it's another time for the Combat Post. And today is a special day. We have a special guest. Command Post. Oh, my God. Yeah, that's bad. That is bad. Ruff, you're muted again, as usual.
Sorry about that. So I don't embarrass the rest of the crew with noises I might make when we're in the green room.
We are the height of professionalism.
Yeah. It's okay.
Command Post. But today's a special day. We have a special guest. We have Mike Denson, designer of Last 100 Yards. So, Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Glad to hear.
I appreciate you being able to participate in your podcast.
Thank you.
We'll ask you at the end. Reserve judgment, Mike. We'll ask you at the
end. It gets to the end. This is terrible. Never coming back.
Yeah. It'd be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, it's fun. We are serious in our love of the hobby, but we don't take ourselves seriously. So put it that way.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Well, Ruff, what was that phrase that Mrs. Ruff came up with? Remember about the show?
There's lots of things she says about the show.
What was it? All talk and
oh yeah, no context.
That's something like that.
Yeah. All talk and no context. Yeah.
Oh. Hey, Dangerous Dave.
Dangerous Dave, there he is.
Yeah, we got a lot of people coming in. We had a good show last Saturday, which was great with the new time and everything. So we just switched it up to 3 to 5 Eastern. Mainly because I have dinner and stuff, and so this gives us a chance to do more shows and things like that. So, So one of the things that I will say is I was told that I should have Mike on by a friend of the show's, Mitch Land. He was like, "You should have Mike on. He'd be great. He would love it." And so I want to thank Mitch for connecting both me and Mike up, and we finally got together. And finally a Saturday where he's not flying off someplace or at a different location for a while there, and so we got it all set up, and I'm glad to get Mike on here. I will say the one thing with Mike and his games is that he actually is very, very good at getting back to you. I will tell you that me and Mitch were playing a game, for King and Country, which I've got right here. We're playing one of the scenarios, and we had some questions, and Mitch sent something off to Mike, and Mike got back to us before we were even done playing the scenario, or even that session. So we've played quite a bit of Last 100 Yards. Ruff, you've played some with me and Mike Berticelli.
Yeah.
Mike's a good guy. He knows the rules pretty well. I've had a lot of fun with him.
He knows every rule. He gets on my nerves. He knows every game, every rules.
And then there's me, who's bought 3 of the volumes and still haven't played them yet.
At least you got them. At least you got them.
Well, Tony, in your comments about support, we've had from the beginning a lot of support from some of the players, Mark Beto, Mark Reve, that have been major contributors. And lots of times people post questions and hell, they've been answered before I ever get there. So, especially Mark Beto, he's done a great job in helping support the game. So answering questions.
Yeah, it's always good when you can put a question in and that you can get an answer pretty quickly back. It's always frustrating when you put a question in and it's like a week later you get an answer and you're like, okay, I'm on to the next game already.
Oh yeah.
So it's one thing. The one game me and Ruff are currently addicted to is Fields of Fire, and luckily there is a great, like your group, there's a great group of guys that will help and answer any questions as they come up. So
that's all we ask as players, a good support place where we get stuck or whatever, something, and yours and Fields of Fire tend to be two of the best.
Yes.
Well, I think one of the big differences is, and we can get into this in a little bit, Mike, but yours is probably one of the most different tactical systems that is out there. For some games, you might get answers years later. Yeah. But it's definitely probably one of the most different tactical systems out there. Can you, Eve, can you kind of go over the system a little bit and kind of in your words, what makes it different? What are some of the key features that that you really like, or what you were looking for when you were designing that part?
Well, um,
I put him on the
you know,
spot.
no. I'm just trying to organize my thoughts.
Yo, yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, I played a tremendous amount of advanced squad leader. I dabbled some of the others. I have combat commander. Um, I played other tactical, but lots of ASL.
Mhm.
And, you know, all those games, majority of them are based on weapon systems. You know, what the gun will do, how much armor it's going to penetrate, what's the rate of fire. You know, it's really about the weapon. And so, you know, I wanted to look at the behavior, the person behind the weapon.
Mm.
You know, most people push a tank, you know, an ASL tank counter around. It's a tank, you know, it's a machine, but there's 4 or 5 people in that machine. So how can you bring a little bit of emotion or life, uh, maybe what it would be like in the tank with cardboard counters?
Yeah.
So I chose to focus more and try and work on the behavioral aspect, not the hero, not the coward, but the average Joe that's in the foxhole. You know, what would he normally do? How would he react from a self-preservation perspective? For example, if the enemy is at 400 yards out there and me and my buddies in a foxhole in a tree line, yeah, I can shoot at them, but I'm just probably going to piss them off and they're going to deploy and mobile against me and then call artillery or mortar on me. So I've given my position away. So self-preservation, you don't want to do that. So everything we've tried to do is kind of been through the lens of a behavioral aspect. Also, you know, I like activating, you know, formations. You just didn't have squads, everybody doing anything and everything they wanted to. So here, the primary formation is platoon, and you activate in our game, you activate by platoon. If you get fortunate, you can roll and get coordination, which represents just that. You know, coordinating a couple of units or platoons makes it much easier to, you know, outflank or develop the enemy. I don't know if that answered your question. I got sidelined, but
No,
It's really interesting because, like,
Yeah.
it sounds like as if, you know, I like how, like what Mike mentioned about your design perspective and your philosophy, that it's not just pieces on a map. These are people, and people do crazy things, but also thinking about what is that person, what is that squad, platoon thinking as they're approaching the enemy, and how would they achieve that objective, which I like that perspective a lot about the game.
well, I guess the best to describe it is this. It puts you in the role more or less of a company commander. You may only be having a couple of platoons in the action at a time because tactical games really are mostly about firefights. You know, they're not big operations, they're firefights, you know, 30 to 40-minute firefights. And people have a misconception that firefights is nothing but continuous fire for 30, 45 minutes. It's not. You know, there's pauses. There's and you know, one side has the momentum and then he loses the momentum. Well, what does he do? How does he get that back? So he's got to take some risk. So the best way to describe, in most of the missions, to win is from a company commander perspective, I have to get the job done in a certain amount of time with the least number of casualties. Okay. So to win in the scenario or win a mission, you have an objective. Take a village, crossroad. You have an objective. And once the objective is met, then you determine whether you won or not. So each game turn is different in this game. It can vary from 2 to 5 minutes. And this because time is variable in combat, I think. you're waiting on Joe. Where's Joe? Shit, Joe, he should have been here 5 minutes ago. Or Billy's wounded, or you can't make radio contact. There's all kind of things that commander or that platoon leader or company commander has to deal with. So he can't control the time. So time's a variable. If you roll poorly on your time rolls, you're going to have less turns to achieve your victory. If you roll well, then you're ahead of the game. So time is a big factor. The other thing is casualties. So we have what you call a casualty differential. You have a casualty marker. Every time you take a step loss as the attacker, it goes one box to the left. If the defender takes a loss, it goes one box to the right. And each box has a value of casualty points. So, for example, if to win the mission, the attacker had to had to have a final score of 30 or less. That's a model of that's time and casualty points. So, if each casualty box is worth 3 casualty points, in a case where I need 30 or less to win, it took me 26 minutes, but I took 2 more casualties than the defender did. So I have to add 6 because that's 2 difference. I have to add 6. So now what would have been a victory is a draw. So it can be the other way. I can finish in 36 minutes, but I took 3 less casualties than the enemy. So I can now subtract 9 from 36, and now I have a win. So as a real company commander, you have to deal and battle with time and casualties. So that little casualty track and the time track really is kind of the driver in the game. It's almost like a role play to a certain extent.
Sure. Yeah.
So from that perspective, there's a lot of, people call it friction, but there's a lot of pressure on the attacker, especially when he might lose initiative. And so
yeah.
You've been there. Okay. All right. Yeah. So initiative, and I know I'm bouncing all over the place here.
Oh yeah, no problem. I've got my notes. Don't worry about it. I'll keep it.
So everybody more or less has some type of either you go, I go, or initiative, or you draw chits or cards. Mm-hmm. So we have initiative, but it's a little bit different wrinkle. Typically, the attacker gets a modifier on his die roll for initiative, and we use a 10 die. So he's going to get a +2 generally on his modifier. Well, that's only if he had the initiative on the previous turn. So you got a little momentum going, then all of a sudden you lose your initiative. Well, now you're not the driver, and you don't get your initiative back or your modifier back until you win back the initiative. So if you're the attacker and do not have the initiative, some people say, well, I'll just pass. But you can't. You can't. You'd only have so much time to get the mission done. You may lose the initiative 3 turns in a row. So I see a lot of people, that might complain about the way the initiative work in the game, and I can't win. Attackers can't win without the initiative. Well, that brings up a story of Marshall. Prior to World War II, Marshall was, I guess, the American General Chief of Staff. Mm-hmm. He said, we're going to train our officers different for this war. So we're going to base everything on chaos. So we're going to put these guys through chaos and see how they respond. And some of them are going to choke, and one's choke and can't handle it. They're not going to be an officer. Okay. Chaos is the number one thing. So it's kind of like some of the players, if they're not in control, what do I do? I can't win. This is a bad game. Well, there are ways, for example, if I was the attacker and I lost the initiative, you, the defender, could potentially just say, I'm going to pass. Well, if you pass, then my guys didn't see anything, so they can't do anything unless I was fortunate enough or planned ahead that I had some units stacked with leaders. Leaders allow you to do what we call limited reaction. Basically, it's a wild card. So if you're stacked with a leader, even if you didn't see anything or your units didn't see anything, they can take an action.
Okay.
So, you can imagine that we've got a lull in combat. Platoon leader Jones says, I got to move forward here. So he'll say, Bill, why don't you take this section and move around the right? And hopefully, you can draw some fire and that allow me to now move to the left and they not be seen or not catch their attention. So there are ways in the game that attacker who has lost the initiative, it requires a little more risk, but in real life, when it gets to that point, that officer has to make that choice. Somebody's got to draw fire while we get closer, or somebody's got to do this. So anyway, that
sounds really cool. Like a lot of friction involved.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot to it, and there's a couple of mechanics that I can't wait to ask you about because they've caused me some headaches. I think they've caused Ruff a few headaches too. But Ruff leans into those particular mechanics, and we'll get to those. Real quick, do you know if they're planning a solitaire system?
No, there's no plans really at this juncture. No one's.
It's a little. I'll be honest with you. The game's a little hard to set up a solitaire system for, just because it is. So you talked about tactical games, and one of the things we like to do is kind of talk about what we've played. So what other games have you played? Anything recently that kind of stuck out recently that you've played that you're like, okay, this is something that was kind of more memorable, or like you said, hey, I can keep it in my collection because I like it.
Well, most of my time really and truly is it takes most of my gaming time for play testing. We have, we'll talk about it later. We have several modules in the works or games in the works, but let's see. I like really Rebel Fury.
Okay.
I really, in the last 100 yards, we try and do this simultaneous feel where, you don't resolve the combat at the same time and et cetera. But the way Mark deals with, you move a unit, I move a unit, you move a unit, it calls a lots of tension. You're looking to launch an attack on the left, but he keeps building up on your right, and now you have to respond to that, so it's kind of an action reaction thing like we have in the last 100 yards that I really like. And so I think.
See, now you're going to make me want to get into another system. Like I've got enough that has not been played that I need to play. And that's one of my things is I'm like, okay, I'm not going to learn it. I'm not going to look at it. But now you're making me interested.
It's a great bargain because in both of them, you get like 4 games in each.
Yeah, that I did see. Yeah.
And I really like the dynamics and the suspense it creates. As I just said, you're moving a guy and all of it, everything kind of builds up and it's not like you just move one. I can move one guy 4 hexes and go and move 5 others and go back and move that guy 4 hexes again, and then move 2 others and come back and move him 2 more hexes. So there's no limit on how many times a unit can move in quote a game turn. Okay.
It's a maneuver dance.
It's really cool.
Yeah. I will say the one thing with the last 100 yards, it definitely has that maneuver. You want to maneuver properly to set yourself up, and there's a little bit of this and that going on back and forth on that one. So the one game I'll tell you, I know the one game you said you've played Combat Commander. I got to do a little bit of play testing for Combat Commander Vietnam. Me and Mitch Land got to play a little bit of that this week.
Yeah,
which was definitely. it feels different. It feels Combat Commander Vietnam feels different than Combat Commander World War II.
Okay.
There's some definitely differences to it. Ruff, what have you been playing? Or wait. I can guess.
Get ready for the drinking game. The number of times that it's mentioned.
Atlantic Chase.
Do you know what? I nearly pulled that out the other day. Excuse me, officer. Yeah, the game. I mean, but no, of course, it's Fields of Fire. I'm trying out this little thing because I've got to mention something about Tweez in a minute. But we're having a chat yesterday. I think, was it yesterday? Whereas you've got normally the 3 columns going up, and there's a spare one, you have to bring men across, like an assault team or a squad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is given its designation. Assets are assigned and all that sort of thing. Then the first sergeant comes along and says, "Right, squad, you're with me, and we'll have that light machine gun." So that covers the 4th column, and he can control those as well as the HQ they are belonging to. So I'm having a muck about with that at the moment, not very successfully, but I'm having great fun with it.
Hey, that's
I don't see many people do that, you see.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing that's nice about Fields of Fire, and I have been playing my game, and I've been finding myself, I'm starting to tab and make notes in my manual now every time I come across something that's different. So I'm doing that.
Can I just mention before we go on, because Herman Lutman, the Herminator, contacted me, and Tweez told me about it yesterday. He's and I couldn't mention, Jerry had him on as well, but we haven't had a live stream since. But tomorrow, Tweez is having Mr. Lutman on his show to talk about his new Napoleonic game. So what I'll do is just post Tweez's link.
Okay. That sounds good. Yep.
8 p.m. our time, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, so same time as what we've got here.
Same time as us.
Yep.
I'll
so Nate, have you been playing anything, or have you been writing dissertations? So Mike, I don't know if you know, but Nate's getting his doctorate in history.
Congratulations!
Thanks.
It'll be murder to live with after he gets that. I'll tell you. Terrible.
Mine's in. See, I'll have a question for you about this later. About maybe it could translate into the last 100 yards. Maybe the system could work on. So my field of study is ancient Rome, and so mine's on Attila the Hun. So could the last 100 yards work for Roman tactics?
Well, Ian asked, can it be transposed to other time periods, rather wars?
That's right. But I will to give some context for you, Mike, on these two guys above us. They love Fields of Fire so much, and it has been said so many times on previous episodes of the podcast that you could do a drinking game and you'd end up in a bad place by the end of the show. The number of times it's mentioned.
If I had more people to play last 100 yards, it would be up there too.
Yeah,
because I absolutely love that game.
We'll have to put that back on the list.
Yeah,
it's kind of
going to. We got to get back on the list. Definitely rough, but it's kind of been. And me and Mitch have kind of talked about. We used to play ATS all the time, which that's kind of gone downhill. We don't want to get into that, but we're kind of like this is kind of turning into our squad tactic, our game, the game that we really really enjoy. With that, so back to the question, Nate. Have you actually been playing any? Did you get anything played?
I did play last night. I got together with some friends to play Scythe for the first time.
I played with before my sister passed. We got to play a game, and that kind of's got a heart. It's kind of a soft spot for me, but I enjoyed the game at the same time. But yeah, it was a game I got to play with, and she won, of course, because
everybody wins against you. Even I win against you.
I'm in for the story, and I'm in for the story. So, what did you think of Scythe then?
I'm not a big mech person.
Yeah.
Like big mech things, but I found the asymmetry of all of the factions really interesting.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah.
By the time that I kind of figured things out, the game was over and I ended up dead last. So
yeah, you kind of got to play
maybe
it a
next
couple
time.
times to really kind of figure out, the thing. And so my sister played like a faction she hadn't played a lot. She's like, "Oh, I'll play this one. I haven't played that much." That didn't help me at all. So,
She's just
but I'm
handed
always
back
in
your
it for the
rear
story.
end.
Yep. So we're going to get into this question when we get, do you think the last 100 yards could translate into other time periods? Yes. And we'll get into that in a little bit. They've got a couple of modules they're working on now, and then we'll see what they're going into on that one. So it was funny. I was talking to Mike. We talked, was it Thursday? I think it was. We talked and got going. And I tell you what, Mike's done a lot of cool stuff. He's done a lot of extra research. So it's very interesting. Now, the one mechanic I want to ask you about, and me and Mitch had a lot of fun with it. I think Ruff, you had some fun with it as well, is the heroic mechanic.
Yes.
So kind of tell us what this mechanic is for those who have not played. The heroic command, where did that come from? And it doesn't seem like heroic to me. It seems like suicidal.
It's do or die, isn't it? You've upset me. This is it. Yeah, right.
Well, you just want to be careful when you go heroic.
Well, you can't always control it though. It's kind of random.
Well, it's kind of like a random event, but obviously like ASL, you have heroes. Okay. But in this game, you have a heroic squad or section. So it's more than one person per se. It's kind of like a random event. It's really cool sometimes when a guy goes hero and he runs up that hill and he takes out that machine gun nest, and a lot of time, it's just not the single man that's heroic. They affect others around them, and so you have an Artie Murphy going up and everybody says, "Look at that guy," I'm gonna let's go. So it's really, it has an effect on the men around them generally.
I gotta tell you one story just recently about the heroic that kind of didn't work so well, or actually was insanely worked well. Was Mitch had a British half squad. So Ruff, you'll be happy in this one. It was a British half squad. By the way, Mike, we'll get into the standalone issue. We'll get into this in a while. For my Germans. I had a full squad, a leader, and a machine gun. And we displaced each other when it came to it. So he displaced me, I displaced. So the hex ended up being almost completely empty because of the heroic. And it was kind of funny because then he came in and just took it because he had another activation. So the heroic, it's an interesting mechanic that it can really throw things.
Well, sometimes it can really, it can change things for the moment. One thing about last 100 yards, it's so back and forth. I've had some where, it's gone my way and then all of a sudden it's going his way. And you have so many variables. You got time can be going for me, but salts are going against me, and fire kills, are going against me, but time's going for me. So there's so many major variables in the game that it creates lots of chaos, which I think is good, because that's what small unit combat is. It's nothing but chaos. And I think the hero contributes to that.
The thing that does my head in is the tick-tock time thing, because I'm terrible at rolling that. And 5 minutes, geez, it's
the attacker, he's like, geez, 5 minutes. As a defender, he rolls 2 minutes,
just like that company commander, Billy, you're 5 minutes late, dude.
Get up that hill, it's just it does, just freaks. It's a great
time thing. Mechanic. I like the time thing because a couple of people have said they don't like how particularly I'm thinking of oh God, now I can't. He's part of the Charlie Whiskey Charlie group, not Kev, not
Nate.
Not Nate. Why can't I think we've had him
Mo.
on?
Mo.
Mo, yeah. Mo
The
doesn't
man,
like
Mo.
Mo doesn't like turns, like the number of turns, and that you got the number of turns. With the time limits, it makes everybody's shouting at their screens. Mo,
Shouting
Mo.
at their monitors. Yeah.
But he I think this takes away the turns. It takes away that idea that, okay, I only have 7 turns. If I'm right at my last turn, I'll just go balls to the walls, go in and kind of just assault. Here, you kind of don't know. Each turn's kind of different. You don't know how many turns you actually have. You could have quite a few turns depending on how you roll. I know there were times where me and Mitch played. It was scenario 65. We play it back and forth, and at one point I thought I was going to survive as the British, and then within like one turn, all of a sudden the casualties went the wrong way. And I ended up with more casualties and ended up losing on that one. So yeah, it's the time part is interesting. It definitely takes away the turns and makes the turns more like you don't know how many you got.
Well, see, when I think of time, I think of the scene in the movie Patton where they're stuck in the mountains in Sicily, and Patton's mad that they can't get down to the beach from the mountains, and he relieves the commanding officer of the unit there, and it gives it to someone else, and he goes, "You're now the commanding officer. You have 4 hours to get to that beach. If not, I'm going to fire you."
Yeah, that's a good one. So one of the features, and we can get into this, Mike, that I love is the fact you don't know the results right away when you
talk about fire results.
Yes,
combat. Yeah,
or mortar or assault. You really don't know until a certain point.
It's all done. Once it's all done, isn't it? Then you find out. You do your attacks and defending.
I wanted to create a simultaneous feel. It always bothered me when I played ASL. Do you want to shoot? You want to shoot? You want to shoot? And then when he does shoot, I disrupted, and now he'll do something because he's got to see what happened. And so you use up the other guy's fire, and now I can move everybody out there to a certain extent. So I wanted a simultaneous feel. So originally, for every unit, I had another counter that was a target counter, like the mortar. And so, when I fired unit A at the enemy, I placed unit A's marker on them. Well, I just ended up with a whole lot of markers, and I said, well, it doesn't really matter if it came from A or B. This is the volume of fire that I've produced in this particular case against this enemy unit that's in a wood building. So, yeah, and I like it too when if you've been fired upon, you're dragging that fire, and then if you're assaulting the enemy, you drag that fire into the hex with the enemy. So it doesn't represent that last 30 seconds of the firefight or combat. It's accumulation of time. We as gamers, we think of segmented turns or segments that things are going to happen, when really, truly, this is all happening in one flow. Okay. Yeah. We think, oh, that can't happen in this segment because of so-and-so. Well, really, I'm trying to represent, this is 30 minutes of a firefight. Okay. And so it's not broken up into pieces per se that way.
Wait, you mean real combat is not like, okay, it's your turn to fire at me, now it's my turn to fire back? No,
I don't think so. I've never been shot at except bird hunting. So
it's been a while since I've played it, but there's segments going on, isn't it? So if you're moving, you might get fired upon, and then you can move again and something else fires at you, or so it's all happening at once, but you don't resolve that.
All this is happening at one time. And, that's the argument of, say, people that played the other games. What do you mean you don't have opportunity fire? Can I shoot at that hex as he moves through that opening 500 yards away? I need you to stop him so I can shoot. No, we broke we broke movement up into smaller segments, like
Mm.
you're moving 2 to 3 hexes instead of 4 to 6 hexes.
Yeah.
So when you really think about
That's
if I
right,
started
yes.
10 hexes away, how many fires am I going to get by the
Yeah.
time you get there? Okay. So we broke it up in smaller segments. So when you fire at someone, you have what we call a die roll, fire die roll marker. Okay. You calculate the modifier and you place that marker on the unit you're firing. And if that unit happens to move into the hex with someone else, he just drug that enemy fire with him.
Because the guys are doing this, aren't they? They're drifting.
They're
their
tracking
fire.
him. It's not just it didn't fire once. I'm firing at him at this segment. I'm focused on that unit. And so, same token, while I'm firing at him, there should be somebody, the enemy moving to my left over here that I'm not going to get a shot at because I didn't see him because I'm focused on this other unit. So it kind of gives that simultaneous feel in the fact that you're really tracking and focusing in this small time segment that enemy unit. And so, but you can only fire at the unit once the enemy player has moved and he calls for reaction. That's when you can fire at him. Okay. You can't fire at him during his move, and you can only fire at him at his last hex. So people say, well, from a modifier perspective, I'll give you a quick example. Okay. I'm going to fire at you at this hex. That's 20%. And this hex is 20%. And this hex is 20%. And this hex is 20%. Well, if you took all those 20%, okay, and you just accumulated in one percentage mathematically, maybe it's a 60% chance. So I just say you got a 60% chance at the last hex. So mathematically it works out the same as far as the risk of disrupting or taking a casualty as it would if you moved through and got fired upon in 4 contiguous hexes. And you save a lot of die rolls. And it always irritated me that you want to shoot. I moved to another hex. Do you want to shoot?
Yeah. I remember that with Tony.
Yeah.
And hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to move. He goes, hold on. I want to fire now.
Yeah, go back to that other hex. I want to shoot you in the open and not in the building.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But I mean, no game's perfect, but I think, it's abstracted well enough. And to compensate for that, we have what we call a proximity modifier. And so if you end your maneuver within 2 hexes of the enemy, you get a +1, or the attacker gets a +1 on his die roll modifier. So anyway,
it's a different. That's what I was impressed with. It's a different tactical game to a lot of the other ones. With how it's put together. Like you say, the combat is not done because it's simultaneous. You do your stuff, you do your firing, you're moving, and then you say, right, okay, time stood still while we actually see what happened in that combat.
Exactly. And the action and reaction piece, really drives as well. I'm a firm believer that, physics, wherever there's an action, there's a reaction.
Yeah.
In warfare, okay, 95% of the time, you're going to react to enemy movement or enemy fire. Now, there is suppressive fire, which is intentional, but from a reaction standpoint, it's going to be because that enemy unit moved or fired that you're going to react. Okay. So in the game, if you didn't see anything, you can't react.
Yeah.
Right.
So I always disliked the missions, where, okay, you got a map board and the enemy player, he's just going to move everything down the left side and attack. Okay. Well, by the time he got there, I already moved everything on my left to my right. So he didn't really have any surprise. See? So I wanted it to be where, it's a small time frame of 2 or 3 minutes. If I was if a man was in a foxhole at the far right of my line and, we get attacked on the left, Well, that guy on the right side of the line down there, 100 yards away, is not going to move until someone comes and gets him and tells him to move, because he was told to defend that position. So to a certain extent, you have a little bit of that, so that you can, if you use to cover. A lot of games, the cover, the terrain is just cover, for defensive purposes. In the last 100 yards, you can use the cover to maneuver and minimize your opponent's ability to react. So it's another dimension from the terrain perspective. It's just not covered from defense purposes. If I can somehow maneuver that I can get a much larger force on a small piece of yours somewhere, I'm going to have a bigger advantage, and you're not going to get to react with those other guys.
But that's the thing, is you're moving. No game can do it completely, because you can see where, unless they're hidden, you can see where the piece is moving, but you can't do anything. Yeah, because in real life, the squad hasn't seen them, or the half squad hasn't seen them moving quietly through the wood. Once they come out, then there's a chance you can see them, and off we go. But that's what's clever. Okay, a lot of games do that. You can't actually fire anything you can't see. But yeah, there's that. You have to think. They're nice small maps as well. Most of the scenarios are smallish maps, aren't they, Mike? So they don't take up a lot of space.
There's not a lot of it's not a big footprint. Now there are some big games, and I know I hear from Berticelli all the time that Mike likes to pull out the big 6 or 8 map scenarios that are in Russia to show off the game at like conventions and stuff like that.
I do. I really do.
That's cool.
So before we get into that, let me just back up on the fire. Yeah. So the player winning the initiative, his units can fire on any unit they can see, and they get their full movement allowance of 3 movement points or 2 X's. The difference is in reaction. You can only fire at an enemy unit that conducted an action in your line of sight. So that's a big difference. Yeah. And in the game. So
yeah, I like that, because that almost seems like it solves a lot of, like, most games, each player has full knowledge of what the other guy is doing, because he can see it physically on the board. And so there is no, quote unquote fog of war in there, but the game mechanics are constructed, whereas even though I can physically see that on the board, I can't do anything about it because my guys can't see him yet.
Basically, Mike pissed off a whole bunch of ASL gamers that want to be able to like do whatever they want and see whatever they want.
Yeah, like like you don't have full control over everything.
Yes, yeah.
If there are 2 enemy units, in a tree line, and I'm reacting, one enemy unit moves and the other unit didn't do anything. Well, which unit am I going to fire at?
The one that moved.
Correct. Okay. So I think that's a behavioral thing there. I'm just not going to fire at somebody for no reason, because he's not giving me a shot. If he's not firing, he's most likely, behind cover, not giving me a shot. But we've got another one that's moving. Okay. So again, it's a reaction issue of behavioral perspective, self-preservation, that I'm going to fire at the threat. If you're shooting at me, I'm going to shoot back. If you're moving at me, I'm going to shoot you. But
if I can see, I'm going to fire. Yeah, that sort of thing. But the other thing, I can't remember, the other unit that's in the tree line and the one that moved is now fired on. Hi, Robert. The one that's still in the tree line can now react because he's seen the fire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you're the active player, sometimes it's better not to react, because
then you're seen, aren't you?
Right.
Because,
right. Yeah. So you have to make that choice. In the game really is a lot about a lot of small individual choices in a sequence and how you're going to do it. Okay. So
that's cool.
One more comment.
I'm getting all American. I keep saying cool indoors. I get told off.
So at conventions, I used to sit for 4 days and demo the game, but most of the conventions I go to, people have been demoed, or the ones that want to see the game know the game.
Yeah.
So I've been taking some of the larger missions. So there's several large ones. Well, there's a few larger ones throughout, but Russia particularly, that I take. I've blown up a map, and so we may have 4 or 5 players to play. But the Russian game was the first one that I really got to feel, well, how is last 100 yards going to stand up, say, in kind of an operational role? For example, I don't remember the name. It's the last mission in the Russian module. I think there's 8 maps, but there's a full battalion of Russian infantry. There's almost a battalion of Russian tanks. There's a beat up German infantry company, and that's trying to delay. And there's.
I'll be back. The cats, the dogs
right.
want their
So
treat.
anyway,
They're going to mither me if I don't. I'll be back in a sec. Sorry, Mike.
It does a really good job, I think, in a little bit larger. There you go. Tony has it.
Yeah, it's the 5th Guards breakout of Borisov.
That's a
Mission
great
58.
mission. It's good to play with. You could easily play with 4, 5, 6 players.
Oh.
And
Cool.
It's a great mission. There's another one. It's hard to create a game where you have an inferior force in numbers attacking a superior force in numbers that's dug in a village on a hill, for example.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the mission number again, but there's a German elite Panzer Grenadier company and a German tank company, I guess. Maybe there's 2 tank platoons, one Panther and one Panzer IV. The Russians are dug in on a village. They have an infantry company in a village on a ridge with anti-tank guns and a platoon of T-34s, and reinforcements come in later. I think there's 3 Su-122s and another platoon of T-34s. So the Germans are really fairly significantly outnumbered, but they're elite. And so you have a smaller elite force taking on a larger dug-in force. How would that work? How do you do that without manipulating value numbers or whatever? And we play these missions. We try and play every mission at least 10 times. Okay. Sometimes we've played them 21 times.
Wow.
Now that doesn't count the development time in creating the mission of, I may play it 2 or 3 times before I ever send it out. And the guys that are developing the newer games do the same thing, but we try and play it 10 times, and so that, it's a reasonable balanced game. War's not balanced. So so anyway, the larger missions, I think, is kind of a nice break. It's good multiplayer.
Now, do you have
it's easy to play teams with last 100 yards, because you're like, okay, you're platoon 3, you're platoon 2, you're platoon 1.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's very easy to play. The smaller scenarios, not so much, but the larger scenarios, I could see a large scenario like that 8 map scenario. Okay, you're 1, 2, 3. You do what you need to do. If you're going to get activated, you're going to get activated. Then you can kind of like, okay, the coordination. It took me a while to figure out why that was so important. And some of the smaller scenarios, it's not as important. So basically, when you initiate, and Mike, you can correct me, but I think I got this right. When you initiate a platoon, and basically you have
when you win the initiative.
When you win the initiative, yes. You initiate a platoon, and then you have to call reaction after that platoon, after you've done everything you want to do with that platoon. Well, with coordination, you can activate 2, and generally out of 3 platoons, you can activate 2 platoons, and they don't get to react until all those 2 platoons have moved. And so it makes it a little bit more interesting. You could set some things up that are that are there that
Well,
you might be able to get some assaults set up before they get a chance.
Yes, when coordination really doesn't help you much as you approach the enemy, but as you get close to the enemy, coordination primarily gives you the opportunity to envelop the enemy when in the assault, and you get a nice bonus in envelopment. Well, if you're only activating one platoon at a time, you have 3 units. And so you have to, with those 3 units, you may have one that's going to suppress the enemy, and then you're going to have 2 that's going to assault. But those 2 now have to be in position so that they can envelop the enemy. And to develop an enemy, the 2 assaulting units have to be enter the non-adjacent hex sides of the defending unit. Now, if you have coordination, now you have 6 squads. It's much easier now to develop the enemy or envelop the enemy because you have more squads. And so that's what makes the elite units so powerful, is because they get a +3 on a coordination roll. So they're gonna, and that's teamwork. That's what your elite units, that's one of the things we looked at in the game and saying, well, what would be the real difference between an elite unit and a regular unit? Okay. Well, okay, let's increase the firepower. No, they use the same M1 Garand. So that's, and one's not a better shot. That's not going to work. Well, let's increase their morale or cohesion in our case. Well, that's not true either, because if you have a regular unit and an elite unit and they're both taking fire, they're both going to go to the ground the same time. Just because you're elite, you're not going to stand up and take the fire longer. Okay.
So, you can't hurt me.
So that didn't make sense there. So what we decided to do, then what really worked, and it makes sense, we increased the coordination roll by 3. 50% of the time that elite unit, okay, they're just trained better for teamwork and working. The other factor is that elite unit's going to get back into the fight quicker than the regular unit is.
So they're going to have a higher cohesion on their disrupted side.
Well, they don't have a higher cohesion. They get a modifier.
Okay,
a
got it. Yeah, that's right.
modifier
That's right.
That helps them rally or recover easier. And so they'll recover. If you have a 6 cohesion, you'll recover on a 7 or less, and you'll actually rally, which means you can not only can you recover, but you also now can take an action on a 1 or a 2. So those 2 things are really represent, I think, better the quality training, the teamwork of elite units versus a non-elite unit.
So a better chance of doing something, be it rally, be
Absolutely.
it moving. Yeah.
Yes. And better chance of working as a team, okay, to get that coordination so they can envelop easier.
Yeah.
It's really powerful. You can take an elite unit and he can take on 2 enemy platoons, or elite platoon can, for example. So
that's cool.
Make me want to play it again, Tony. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's the narrative is so much there too. Like it's one of the things that I like about tactical games is you generally get a really good narrative, and Last 100 Yards you can picture it in your head how it's going, especially after you find out that you're assaulting a hex and all of a sudden you took fire from the hex because you were like, if you're adjacent to the hex, the assaulting hex does not get fire on them. It just happens. But if they're 2 hexes away, they have to move in, and then you can fire on them, and then they might not, or half of them might get to go in, the other half may not. So what you thought you might have a superior numbers going into the assault, you actually don't, because you ended up disrupting, I think it's whatever disrupting, I can never remember, but basically flipping them, and they're no longer, they can't assault anymore.
Right.
So
well, they can assault. They just assault. They just have a lesser value.
Yeah, that's true.
If they lose, they have a much greater chance of suffering
getting casualties. Yeah.
So disruption in the game basically means that they've gone to ground. And it doesn't mean that they've routed or run away.
They
They
just
just
hit the deck.
temporarily, seeking any cover they can find and not returning fire. So,
It's good. Oh, did you want to talk about the standaloneness of the?
Yeah. So
Sure.
somebody had mentioned that. So what's going on? You just mentioned, and this is the first time I've kind of heard as well. I'm not always on the pulse of certain things, but what's going on with that?
So, because when the British module came out, that was not too long after COVID, and there were no module. First, you had to have the first two modules, the core modules, to play the British module. Okay, they were not available at the time. And if you found one out on eBay or somewhere, it was quite expensive.
Yeah.
And so Gene has since, if you have to have the British module, there is another small pack that you can get on the P500, and I'm hoping it works, that will give you all the components you have to have a complete game. So as a result of that issue, all future reprints, all future games will be standalone games.
Yeah.
So you may end up with 5 sets of German counters. Okay. But there is duplication. But when you buy a game, you will have everything you need to play in that game.
But somebody might not want, say, the stuff that's in the first volume, but wants the British thing. So they don't really need to buy the first 2 volumes to have it.
No,
that's good thinking. Good
right
thing.
Now, if you bought the British module, and you will know, yes, there is a special kit that's available that has all the components you have to finish and make the British module stand alone. But when we get to the point of a reprint, when we get to reprint the British module,
have that in there. Yeah.
It'll all be there. So
that's good. That's good. And going forward, all of them will be standalone. Yeah.
Yes. So the first module was standalone. The Japanese was standalone, and everything else in the interim will be as well.
There we go.
I don't need it, but I think I've ordered it because I've got every volume anyway.
Well, they did. I thought it was a really good deal.
Yeah, $26.
I think I've ordered it anyway, just cause.
Because then, just think of it now, Ruff, is you can just throw it in the box and you don't have to pull out the first box.
That's exactly, that was my thinking.
There you go.
That was my thinking.
Yep, but you get but with this, you get the latest edition of the main rule book, and
that's correct.
The playbook, you get all the maps there now. So,
yes.
So very good deal.
Yeah, for $26 pre-order. Yeah, that's pretty good. Coy, we'll get into the expansions in a little bit. It's at our hour mark. So basically, this is the time where Ruff likes to talk about this day in British history.
It's not British history. You guys don't tend to do a lot of things.
Well, here's the thing: you guys have thousands of years of history. You guys, there's a reason why the term was "the sun never sets on the British Empire." Like
it did
eventually. But at one point, there was always colonies there. So with that,
there isn't much going on this time today.
Oh, really?
Not much going on. So here we go, 8th of August, and it starts. I did look. There was not much going on in Ancients. Nate, I did have a look.
Oh, sad.
1588. In a 9-hour battle of Gravelines, the English fleet. No, it's called Gravelines. Gravelines.
I mean, the English always pronounce it as Gravelines.
All right. The Americans, you might say.
How is it that an American knows how to
Mike, this is what I have to put up with every time I do it. These two start. I know I don't pronounce things correctly, but anyway.
I couldn't
Gravelines. There we are. The English fleet engaged with the Spaniards in their last naval confrontation. The defeat of the Armada saved England from invasion, and the action has enduring historical significance as the first major naval gun battle under sail. What are you laughing at? The comments already started, have they? No.
Yeah, they got a book on the Armada. Armada.
Oh, good. Right. No, fantastic. No,
there you go.
Well, here's something for you guys. 1863, American Civil War. Following his defeat in the Battle of Gettysburg. All right, I'm just mucking you about. Gettysburg. General Robert E. Lee sends a letter of resignation to Confederate President Jefferson Davis, which he refuses to read. Dear, oh dear, dear.
Oh,
dear.
yeah, no, I know why too. So,
yeah, he said it goes without saying. Don't need to read about it anyway. Then we whiz forward to 1918, World War One, the start of the Battle of Amiens. Allied troops advanced against 20 German divisions and took 16,000 prisoners within 2 hours. 1940, World War II, the German Luftwaffe began a series of daylight air raids on Britain, and so began the Battle of Britain, which would continue into the following October. 1945, World War II, the Soviet Union declares war on Japan. And this is interesting. 1946, first flight of the nuclear-capable, where they could carry nuclear weapons, the Convair B-36, heaviest mass-produced piston-engined aircraft at the time. This Convair B-36 Peacemaker was a piston-engined strategic bomber built by Convair and operated by the United States Air Force Strategic Air Command from 1948 to 59. 384 units were built. The B-36 remains the largest mass-produced piston-engine aircraft and has the longest wingspan of any combat aircraft. The B-36 was capable of intercontinental flight without refueling, and it was never flown in combat. The bomber was conceived for transatlantic raids against German-occupied Europe in the contingency that the United States Army Air Forces lost access to British air bases. But the war ended before its first flight in 1946. And yes, I have a picky.
Oh,
watch
excellent.
Out, watch out. Just in case, this thing is it's American aircraft. I just don't fall in love with them. But
do we need to count the pixels on the image?
Shush now.
That's right. That's right. I forgot. By the way, the picture in the back is Little Round Top, just so everybody knows it's on the top.
Oh, is it?
All
right.
Yeah.
Very
nice.
nice.
That thing's kind of ugly too.
It's not their best, but look at this. Look at the size of it.
An excellent aircraft. They have one in the Air Force Museum in Ohio, in Dayton.
Oh, down in Dayton at Wright Patterson.
Yep.
It's been a while since I've been down there. I need to get back down there.
Oh, it's amazing.
Like 2 hours from my house, you know.
Oh, so that's nothing for you American guys. For us, that's the other end of the country. But anyway.
Consider you can drive all day and still be in Texas. So
that's for sure.
I know, crazy. 1966, the death in Columbia, Maryland, of Sir Frank Whittle, aviation engineer and pilot who invented the jet engine. He was born at Earlsdon, a suburb of Coventry, and there's a statue of him just outside Coventry Transport Museum. So there we are, old Frank. And finally, in the year 2000, the Confederate submarine H.L. Hunley was raised to the surface after 136 years on the ocean floor and 30 years after its discovery by undersea explorer E. Lee Spence. Hunley demonstrated the advantages and dangers of undersea warfare. She was the first combat submarine to sink a warship, the USS Housatonic, although Hunley was not completely submerged, and following her attack and was lost along with her crew before she could return to base. She was named for her inventor, Horace Lawson Hunley, and the Hunley may be viewed during tours at the Warren Lash Conservative Center in Charleston. A replica is on display at USS Alabama Battleship Memorial Park, Mobile, Alabama, along with the USS Alabama and the USS Drum. And just to finish, there is a picture. Well, it's a model, actually, so you've got some idea what this death trap looked like.
By the way, there is a game about
yes, I
building
was going to mention Jerry's game. Yes, there it is. Look at that. It's going to have trouble, isn't it? That thing. It's going to.
Well, look how they attack. You basically ram the boat and pull back, and that thing explodes. That's the whole thing. Yep.
I know, it's crazy. But there we are. That's the Hunley for you. And Jerry White's game. It wasn't the first submarine. There was another one before that. And I'm not sure what Jerry's game.
Infernal Machine.
Yeah, if it's just a fictitious submarine you're building and developing, or it's a specific submarine. But
I presume
get it. Yes, yeah.
So
there we go.
Okay, well, for mine, I recommend, since I'm a history guy, I recommend a history book. So since today we're talking about small arms combat in World War II, I thought I would pick a book that I got to read during my graduate school years when I did a class on World War II. It's called The Bitter Road to Freedom by William Hitchcock, History of the Liberation of Europe. This book is interesting because it's not just necessarily a military history of the liberation of Europe from all the perspectives of the Allies, both the Western Allies and the Soviets, but it also takes a look at the civilian side as well, on how they experienced liberation and what did it mean to be liberated and how they dealt with that, how they rebuilt from that liberation as well. Because for French people to be liberated, especially like Normandy, was a heck of a lot different than being liberated in, say, Western Germany or Eastern Germany when the Soviets came through. So it's a lot different. So this is a fascinating look at really the experience of the ordinary soldier and the ordinary civilian in Europe during the end of World War II.
Lovely.
Hey,
we
Mike,
are experiencing a bit of echo
I
somewhere.
figured it out. Mike, can you turn down your volume just a little bit? It's echoing through. That's probably going to be good.
How's that?
I think that's better.
I think that's
I can't hear myself.
Yep.
Yep. Okay, that took care of it. Yep. So I actually have something, and I was telling Mike about this. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna pull a Nate and actually have a book actually. This last Christmas I was in Barnes and Noble just looking, and I usually like to give Karen a list of books for Christmas. So I just take a picture of the cover, and I saw this one, and it's Svetlana Alexievich, and it's called The Unwomanly Face of War: An Oral History of Women in World War II. Particularly from the Russians, because the Russian women actually fought. They were right along the side of the men. And so what she did is she went through and interviewed all these women that fought in the war, that actually fought. So there's snipers in here. There's machine gun operators. There's
pilots.
Machine gun. What? I have, yeah. Couple pilots. And I it's just interesting because I was telling Mike, one of the things you don't think about is these women, when they came back, the ones that actually came back, they had other fears to worry about other than just coming back, because they knew if they came back disabled, disfigured, something, they would not find a husband. So they had some different fears on that. And I'm only, as you can see, I'm only part of the way through. I'm just beginning it, but it is phenomenal. Now, what's interesting is this was published in the 80s, really? And we all know and the Soviets, so Ukrainian at this point was still part of the Soviet Union, wasn't Ukraine. The censors actually pulled a lot out of it because it was not politically correct, because it didn't support the kind of heroic and everything like that.
Their version of the great patriotic war. Yes.
So, and Nate will Nate will agree with me on this. If you read a history book, you have to read the introduction, because the author tells you what they're trying to do in the book. A lot of times, if you just read the book, it's very dry because you don't know why the book is being written. So you've got to read it. But what she did in her introduction is she took all the stuff that the censors threw out, that she self-censored, and that the censors told her, and added it to the intro. So there's a lot of actually, like, the intro is actually like 50 pages just because it's all of these interviews that she left in. But the first 2 interviews were from snipers, and one of them had a body count of 75.
Jeez, blimey.
So what's the name of the book again?
The name of the book is The Unwomanly Face of War.
He's making notes. Mike's making notes.
Next module for last 100 yards.
So there is actually the of course there's always there. I can't wait for I know Liz Davidson's working with David Thompson on the Night Witches game, which I am actually really excited about. It's the Russian World War II pilots, female pilots that flew the biplanes, World War I biplanes.
Oh yeah.
And they would bomb the Germans at night, so they'd be at night, hence the Night Witches, and they would turn off their engines, and all you could hear was the wind whistling. Yeah. I'm like, that's just eerie. I'm like, I can't wait.
They're mad. Yeah.
So, the women wanted to get to the front, and several of the stories I've read so far they actually left rear lines, so they're like in the communications or whatever, to go to the front to fight and actually fight. And I think it's just different. We didn't see that. We had a lot of women that wanted to help.
I think they were the only country that did that. I mean, we didn't do it. I know you guys didn't do it. Yeah. I mean, we had female pilots sort of flying planes to land at airfields to replenish, they used to do that. But
basically a support. They served as support in Western armies.
Yep. And one of the lines, like, and I've actually been taking notes on some of this, but one of the lines that I thought was interesting was, of course, Stalin was arresting everybody suspicion of being spies, even if they weren't. And basically one of the girls' uncles got caught up and got put in a gulag. And they're like, that's okay. They're like, let's win the war. We'll figure it out later. Like, your uncle just got sent to the gulag for being a spy, even though he isn't. And your focus is on winning the war. It was a different mentality.
It was a different mentality. Hence their, as you know, Mark, as you said earlier, hence their sort of behavior in games, and in war at the time. They had a different, it wasn't, they weren't doing it for the love of the dictators. They were doing it apart from the guys at the back with the pistols, but they wanted to, win the war. They had great patriot sort of feelings.
Henry Mike says it's 44% off Amazon right now. So
it must be a good read then.
It is a Nobel Prize winner for literature. So
it's probably because it's a 1980s book, but that doesn't make it any less viable. So go and grab a copy. 44% off.
Yeah.
Very cool. Nice, Tony.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I just saw it on the bookshelf. I said, "Oh, that's different." And I'm always looking for different stories about World War II because I do have a slight rant that I wanted to do real quick. Not really a rant.
Go on then. Don't get me popcorn. What?
No, you don't need to. But so I don't know if you guys know, History's doing a World War II like marathon. Tom Hanks is doing the World War II like from beginning to end type documentary. They're like an hour. Yes. I'm so bored with it because it's not new.
It's a little bit biased as well, isn't it?
No, it's American focused.
Yeah, well, there you go. The rest of the
actually,
case.
No. So what I'm going to tell you is that if you didn't know anything about World War II, great, it's perfect. But if you know a fair amount, it is the same information over and over again.
So my parents, you wouldn't believe the number of people I meet that are like, who do we fight in World War II? I don't know.
Did we quit when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? No,
that's right. Yeah.
So it was one of those ones where I'm like, I am so bored with it, I can't even watch it. Now my parents are loving it because they learned about Operation Mincemeat.
Oh, if they watch the film, watch the original, the new one, Operation Mincemeat, with Paddington's dad in it. What's his name? The English actor. Is a little bit. I didn't enjoy it. It's more a love story, if anything, about his relationship with somebody else. But the old black and white version of it, I think it's called something like "The Man Who Didn't Die" or something like that. Is a good film. The other good series to watch is from the 70s, narrated by Sir Laurence Olivier, is The World at War. If you can find copies of that on, I don't know if it's on YouTube, but that's a great little series.
Yeah, that I will say that this is one of the things also is that you got to remember that they were invading, the Germans were invading Russia. So yes, you are 100%.
That's it, exactly. They wanted the Germans. And
you can actually compare to a modern if you go to Ukraine, I know there are plenty of women out there fighting, shooting in the part of that. So yeah, so.
Well, you also have
Russia was on our side,
right? Yeah, can't say that today.
Yeah.
So going back, Mike, I do have a question of I know now that we're on the second half of the show, I think Tony, you wanted to get into kind of the future modules that you're looking at, and you kind of gave us a preview of that before we went live in the green room. So I'm curious, what sort of the plan for the last 100 yards now that you have that each game is going to be on its each standalone, and what's kind of the future of the series?
This month, GMT will put on P500 the second Pacific War module. Okay. It's going to be partly Guadalcanal and the Australians on the in New Guinea. Was it Kokomo Trail? Or Kokoma Trail, whatever it is. Yes.
That'll be good. I know Sark is an Aussie. I know we got a few Aussies that watch, so that'll be good to have.
You say that's an expansion to the Solomon Islands, or
it's going to be the separate standalone game. It's a second Pacific
Kokoda Trail. Right. I knew he would be in there.
No, yes.
The Kokoda Trail. So a lot of heavy jungle fighting. The Japanese are beasts in the jungle. If you've been playing Europeans, it's going to be, if you've not played any Pacific or Russian, it's going to be, especially the Japanese, because it's in the jungle. The American player is going to have to play a lot different. The Japanese are, they're really tough, and they behave differently. They have some special characteristics. Generally, they'll have a higher cohesion, not necessarily because they're a better unit, but it's just the mechanic that we use. The Japanese and the Russians, they do not disrupt like the Western armies. They actually just take a casualty and keep coming. So it gives you a feel that's just like, I don't have enough bullets for all of these guys. I mean, so if you're playing Germans against the Russians or the Americans against the Japanese, so to recreate the tactical doctrine and how they fought, we reduced the firepower of the Japanese and Russian squads from 1 to 0 comparatively to, say, the Germans or the Americans. So their strength is not, firepower and duking it out, which it wasn't. Americans had more and better of everything, but they wanted to close. They wanted to get up close. So they'll generally get an advantage in the assault because their cohesion is going to be better. So even if you don't know anything about history, you'll realize that, just standing off and firing, as you're at a disadvantage, where if you can get in and assault, you have an advantage. So from that perspective, the American player can feel fairly overrun quickly.
Yeah.
So after that, I
will say, Mike, we have a recommendation here for you from Sark, who's from Australia, So there's a book by Bill James on Battlefields of the Kokoda Trail.
Okay, I'll look that up.
So the one thing real quick, when we and Mike were talking, he said he started the game and then did all the reading. It's usually the other way around. The designer does all this research before. For Mike, he said he was the opposite way around.
Well, yeah, I never intended to be a game designer. It kind of happened by accident. So I'll try and make this as brief as possible. I lived in the city, had plenty of guys to play with, and we moved back about 15 years ago to a small town in East Texas where I grew up. And I kind of reconnected with a cousin I hadn't seen in years. He was a Vietnam vet. And I said, well, hey, how would you like to play a war game? He'd never seen one. So, we tried Combat Commander, we tried some other games, and he really just wanted to have a few beers and push counters around. He didn't want to read the rules. And we tried some others. And so literally I said, well, we'll do this. I pulled counters from one game and a map from another. And we just scrimmaged and played. And so after the second or third week, I said, well, I got to start taking notes because I can't remember what we did the week before. So, after about a month or so, I got 5 or 6 pages of notes and then, 15 pages of notes. And so, but, I've played games for 65 years. So, I have my own opinion on how things should be and what I think is real and realistic. And so, my favorite games genre is operational games. So, but anyway,
That's my favorite.
That's Nate's favorite. Yeah, you got a fan there.
I love it.
So, it eventually evolved into what was the last 100 yards. And I kind of introduced it to some other friends and they said, hey, you need to publish this. And no, I don't know anything about publishing and I don't know anything about it. And, most of the time when you try and publish a game, they want you to write up what it's about and give an outline and send it to somebody to think about, And so I actually contacted Dean Essig, who we weren't best friends by any means, but I'd gone to his HomerCon that he had a couple of times. And so I called Dean and I said, Dean, I don't want you to buy the game. I just want you to tell me if it's a game. So I drove from Texas to Homer, Illinois, and we played in the kitchen for a couple of days and he gave me a thumbs up and encouraged me to move forward. So that's 2 months later, there was the weekend at the warehouse in California. So I flew out and walked in the door and said, well, who owns this company? Who runs this outfit? And they pointed to a guy over there. And I said, well, what's his name? They said, it's Gene Billingsley. So I went over there to Gene, and Gene's a wonderful guy. And I said, well, Gene, I think I got a game here. I want to see if you're interested in publishing. And he said, well, there's a lot of tactical games out there. So he had me play with, I think Mitch was one that played, Mitch Land and a few others. And a few months later, I get a call. I met Tony and Mark in Dallas, and here you go. So once they accepted the game, I'd already read a lot, but I began to focus specifically on books of actual accounts written by, a machine gunner or a tank driver or maybe a platoon leader or company commander, small units, to try and get a really good feel for what I felt like being I'm not in the military, being what it was like. And so I probably read 60 to 70 different accounts, books, Russian, German, British, American. And it validated a lot of my thoughts. And so, a lot of things we do, we justify, but most of the mechanics were in place at the time. But that's how that came about. So
that's neat. That's a really neat story.
The other thing, you're talking about the first volume, of course. I mean, I don't know if that cover of the first one, I love, but it did cause some people it caused a little bit of kerfuffle.
Oh, you mean the people upset by an actual historic picture?
Yeah, yeah, and it was in
Yeah,
fact because it was
the real
it was
people on
German,
here.
Well,
German
okay,
with an
okay. So
expression on his face of
that
bad enough.
cover actually came
Great
from
cover.
a series called Generation Wars.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
okay, so I like the sepia kind of effect,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's kind of what we went for. So I think we were back to talking about what's coming up. Well, we have the first. Well, we have another. This will be the second Japanese game, Pacific, the Kokoda Trail, and some more in the Guadalcanal. After that, we have another P500 in the fall. It involves Russians versus Japanese in the 30s. And then again, there's a few missions or scenarios in 45 Russian, Japanese versus each other in Mongolia.
Cool.
So that's going to be next. We also have a team working on early war France,
That's
which
what I'm
is going
looking
to
forward
pit
to.
France and British against the Germans, and obviously mostly France. So we'll have a lot of early war vehicles. What will be different? Well, at that time, we're going to treat all German units as being elite because comparatively to the others, they were. And that's without having to write special rules. We're going to use the elite rules. And so that's going to work out well.
Sense. Yeah, that makes sense. It's an easy fix.
They
Yeah.
were prepared. They were prepared.
And so a lot of light tanks and armored cars. And so it's kind of different. And then that person, he's actually is a military contractor. He's ex-military. He's doing that, Mark Weaver. From that, he's going to do early war Russia, which will be 41, 42. Again, a lot different vehicles, but other than that, won't be any really different things because we already have special rules on how the Russians, their tactical doctrine, their behavior, as well as their anyway, in early war Russia.
Yeah.
So then
Cool.
we have the gentleman. We call him Sora. He's a Chinese. He's a PhD student in China studying AI. He is a big last 100-yard supporter, and he's the one that's doing the Russian versus Japanese. But as soon as he finishes that, he's doing Korea. So, and
different theater.
Yeah,
war.
looking forward to that as well. Yeah.
So we have in the works, counting this one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 games in progress currently. I'm looking personally if I can get to it, something in Italy.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe even looking at doing some Vietnam stuff after that. So we have, we've got a little momentum.
I always thought that it would be Vietnam would be a definitely you could do Vietnam with this, the way the system's just, you wouldn't have to change too much. A little bit more hidden movement, I think, for the NVA or for the Viet Cong. But I definitely could see Vietnam being a very, very possibility for this system.
Well,
I'm looking forward to Korea, I must admit. Yeah.
I've had the opportunity to be introduced to a couple of military groups. I got to meet Dr. Sterrett with the War College in Fort Leavenworth. And another follower of the game was a captain of an infantry company for the 101st Airborne. And so we've been really trying to look at how to convert last 100 yards to modern day small unit combat, like in Ukraine. So, I've done some research. You don't have bigger map, less density. and you have more teams. Like you might have you got a sniper team, you got a recon sniper team, you got an anti-tank team, you got a drone team, so really smaller units. Terrain is a big factor, obviously. But how to model all the drone activity and things, at a small scale, it's really been a challenge to try and figure out how we might do that. But anyway, so certainly we have 5 games in the pipeline that are all.
That's enough, Mike. That's enough. Come on, I've got to buy them. Shush now.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so the other thing I did want to say,
bleeding.
Yeah. The other thing, ASL, the one other thing I love about your games, Mike, is I love how big the counters are. I like the larger counters.
Yes.
They are so much nicer. Oh, Hissy Cat. Haven't seen him for a while.
Hey, Hissy.
And
but
I really
counters,
like the artwork on there.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's actually nice to see if it's a tank. It looks like a tank. It's not just the NATO symbol or anything. It's
Charlie Kibler does all the art, and he does.
He's a good boy.
Well, he does all the art of the vehicles and guns and stuff. Rick Reinish, a great friend of mine, and I've known for years. He's now doing some more artwork for GMT, but he does all the layout. There's a gentleman in Poland that does the little infantry figures and the uniforms for us. So we got a good team.
That's cool.
And Liz Stefanoff is the artist that does all of the maps.
Beautiful maps, by the way. I'm so glad we actually have some real maps.
See, here we are. Look, this is okay. This is more an industrial area, but they are great maps. Nice size.
Yes.
And the counters.
Yeah. Well, now that I can't. All the games I used to love the 1/2-inch counters. I really struggle, with knocking over the stacks and all that stuff anymore. With the
nice counters.
And so the 3/4-inch counters are by far much easier to use. So
I'm fed up of using this, Mike.
Okay.
Fed up.
Yeah, I was. So I'm a big Civil War, so I have 3 Days of Gettysburg, and I had one of the small scenarios, like put out, and I'm just like fumbling through. I'm like, nope, I'm gonna have to do this on Vassal because the counters are just too small.
You get spoiled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Vassal is so clean and it's so easy, and it's like. But I want to play with the real counters.
Yes,
I want to
this
push
is the point of spending
around.
that amount of money on a game. You want to get tactile with it and smell the cardboard.
I've taken most of the maps now, and I've taken to, not Hobby Lobby, but Office Depot.
Yeah,
and I've blown them up so that the hexes are like 1.5 to 1 3/4.
Nice.
So
nice.
And now you can actually put 2 3/4 units in the same hex, when you assault, and you can get it done on this polyethylene paper, which is really great. And so the big Russian map for the 8 mapper, I did that, so it's much easier to play on because it's like 6 feet by 40 inches or something, so it's really nice to play on, when it's that. And I approached GMT about doing publishing a set of the maps that had the larger hexes. Okay.
Well, I tell you what, Lock and Load have done it. Cheers, everyone. With their 4X maps. Yeah, they make the hexes bigger, so it's not a new thing. So
GMT say, maybe someday they priced it out and they just didn't think it would work. We'll see about that in the future. So
I mean, the hexes are pretty decent size as they are. They're not small. You can fit the counters in through the stack. So I've had a few games where the counters are like leaking over the hexes. So luckily they're not too bad on that one. So
No.
Well, if I blow them up to where the 17 becomes 24.
okay.
Hmm.
So I don't know what the other side would be, but it's probably
Now,
14 by 24 or something like that.
Ah.
15
now
by
I'm
24.
curious. You mentioned that outside of play testing last 100 yards a lot, that your favorite games are operational games.
Oh, don't
operational
start
board
him
games.
off. Go always off.
So
now.
I'm
Go on.
curious. Do you have a favorite campaign that you like to play?
Operational games, probably my favorite is OCS by Multi.
Okay.
Oh,
Interesting.
Oh,
So
there's
what-
I think
counter
it does
stacks right there.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it does,
a lot
I
of
think it does a
stacks.
better job of representing two things. Well, actually more than two, but blitzkrieg combat,
Mm-hmm.
the reserve aspects for the Germans, especially late in the war, where you have these firefight teams. You got a panzer unit setting back 10 hexes from the front that can support 3 different road avenues.
Yeah.
The air game is almost like a separate game in itself. I think is a way it works. I just don't really have the space anymore to play or anyone to play with, but that's probably my favorite. And I recently played Herman's Pacific Empire of the Sun, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's good too. So I like operational type stuff.
That's awesome. I shared I found it online. It was a picture of I think it was at a convention of a group of guys. They had put together, what was it, Third Winter and Forgotten Battles, and then I think they were playtesting I think there's like a Leningrad module that they're going to work on. So essentially it's the entire Eastern Front in 1944, and they had everything set up and counters everywhere. And I shared the picture with my friend who normally doesn't play war games. He likes Euro games, the fun, smaller games. And I share with him, I go, "This is a dream game right here. This looks so cool. You want to play with me?" And he's like, No, not at all.
no.
I have a real close friend, Bill Quos. It's part of that group that's trying to put together, consolidate all the various case blues and all those. And they meet the last 2 years. They've met for 2 weeks or a week in UK, the UK in play testing, because some of the guys that's involved in that project are from the UK. But
that's cool.
I'm gotten spoiled. I really like the interaction of the last 100 yards and the other games like it because there's no dead time. I've gone back to my operational games at time. Want to try one. We did one last year with a friend on the Bulge game, one of the Bulge games. And, sitting there 30, 45 minutes waiting for him to make his turn, I've just gotten spoiled in games that there's a lot of interaction. I mean, and not just the last 100 yards, man, I can only speak for that, but the way it works, you're in it. I mean,
both are active.
Whether you're the active player or not, you're involved. You got something going on the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a lot of value that you can get in an hour or two playing a mission. So,
and I think Doug in the chat said, "Oh, is it solo?" Again, it's not built for solo. You can play it two-handed, but there are some scenarios that have hidden units and things. So no, I'd say no. Get
I generally just play if it's got hidden units, I just put them on concealed. And I can tell you, I have to do lots of solo.
You have to
I think the game. I think the game does pretty well solo. You just have to try and psychologically change your position when you do the other side.
So just like any two-handed game, you have to play both sides to the best of your ability.
Exactly. But it generally plays just fine.
There you go. You go.
Yeah, the back of the box even says 6 out of 9.
Yeah, I mean, it's hidden stuff is the thing, but there's ways around that, isn't there? You can either not have hidden or use some sort of house rule.
Mike, have you played BCS, by the way, the Battalion Combat System?
I
new
tried
one?
BCS, and as much as I wanted to like it, I just really, there's parts of it that I really, really like. And then
Mhm.
there's some parts, it's like ASL was for me.
Stuka.
There's parts I really, really like, but there's just some things that I just can't get over. So I know it's a great game, popular game. As I said, uh, I can pick a lot of parts that I do like, but no.
Yep, I understand that. There's plenty of games where I want to like it really bad, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, there's
Everybody I've
something,
met,
there's
yeah,
always something in there that you just can't get over,
yeah.
and
Now,
Yep.
is that because of your mindset from more traditional? Because BCS again is quite different. I understand.
yeah, it is
Everybody I've
different. But
played it said, "Oh, it's great," you know.
when I went to visit Dean to share my game,
Yeah.
he was in the process of finishing up BCS. So
Mm.
he had a demonstration where, he had this one counter and he moved down the road and had one attack, and then he kept going and had another attack. I think he had 3 attacks in one impulse with one unit. Okay. And it came back again like, okay, I get to see the results of what I've done before I get to do anything else.
Ah, right.
Okay. And so being from the other side of the fence where, I don't think I should, that commander's not going to get to know the results of what's going on because all this stuff is happening simultaneously.
Right.
And so I did here a year or two ago, went out and purchased a smaller, I think it's Everench
Oh yeah.
or Aerocourt.
Airport.
Yeah.
And I again, if I do something similar, I maybe try and copy some of the things. I really like the recon. I really like the logistics, and I like the what they call it, the objective counter.
Yeah.
I like all
Yeah.
that stuff. But if I do anything different in the future, it's probably going to be, I'm going to find some way to try and get some simultaneous feel.
Yeah.
And that's comes back now to Rebel Fury, because I've looked at that. Rebel Fury, you do a counter at a time. I'm looking at something, have been looking at doing something where it's a company level game, but you're operating you're activating, instead of a single counter, you're activating a company which consists of, no, you're activating a battalion which consists of 3 companies. Same way, I can activate it as many times as I want in the game turn. Okay. But the way that would work is that will say that game turn consists of 50, we'll just say 50 boxes or time frame, 50,
Sure.
whatever. So at the end of every one, you roll a die and it can move 1 to 3 boxes.
Yeah.
So you decrease in time. So if you start at 50, so once you've gone through the 50, then that's one game turn. But it could be, it could be just 1 box, or it can be as many as 3 or 4 boxes. So you never know again how many turns you're going to have. So it's a similar mechanic. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you're now, it's the same thing as the Rebel Fury, except I'm activating formations instead of single units.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's
but
cool.
again, any way to create some type of simultaneous,
Yeah.
and that's why I struggle with BCS.
I think it's
Yeah,
most
understandable.
sort of strategic and operational games. You go work out your combat, turn over your pieces or remove them, then the other guy fires back. It's not it's not lifelike, is it?
No, in a
And it's
sense,
really
no.
hard. It's well, as I said, Mark Herman's Fury, I think, really has stirred my
It's
stirred
juices
another
flowing,
way
yes.
to create the same simultaneous feel. Put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, well, the thing is, I bought the Steam version, so I know everybody says that's a great way to learn the game. So for Rebel Fury, so I'll probably try that before I get into it, so that way I can figure that out.
The PC version, yeah,
the PC
Well,
version, yeah.
You know, I'm not a big super fan of the way the combat's resolved. I find it just to be really, really erratic.
Sure.
It's really hard, and I'm probably not playing it correctly, but I've played it many times. You know, they said it's really hard to have I would seem like maybe 40% of the time you can have success on the attack, even if you have the advantage. So it's tough to attack in that game. So it's really more about maneuvering.
Sorry, Mark, just one quick, because we're coming to the end soon. If you haven't done so, could you do us a favor and smash that like button, regardless of who you're watching? Just smash their like button and subscribe. You know, to us, because it just tickles the algorithm and gets it out a bit longer, a bit wider. So thank you for that.
And leave a comment if you got a question. You're interested in something that happened in the show. You want to leave a comment? Go ahead, please leave a comment. Helps the algorithm out. Helps us all out. And Ruff's now leaving.
Hold on, be back in a second.
So, you have any more questions on the last 100 yards? I mean, mechanics, theories.
Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
I'm trying to remember some of this stuff because there is concealment on it as well, which is interesting. That's always an interesting point, is how you lose concealment, when you lose concealment, things like that.
I mean, we can always ask the chat if you have any questions. You played the game. You have any questions about the last 100 yards? I know there was a couple of questions earlier about and I kind of asked this question in the green room before, but you can share it with everyone, of the potentiality of last 100 yards moving into either the North African theater or the East African theater of World War II. So I know I asked you beforehand, but I'll ask you again for the audience.
If I was going to do Africa, I'd probably do Tunisia first. I just think the desert warfare would be. I mean, if you're out in the desert and you've got what they would call a box, you've got probably 100 yards of minefield all around the box, and you got fortifications. I just don't know how much fun that would be playing. You're not gonna attack to the minefield until your sappers have gone there and cleared you away. So the point is, well, where do you start the mission? Do I start the mission with the sappers going in the night before, and they take 6 hours to clear the mines, or do I start the mission where the sappers is already finished? But to go through a minefield consisting of, say, 4 solid hexes of mines, I don't know how much fun that would be. Now, if you had an armor battle, maybe just an armor battle, that would be different. Or if you're attacking some, Algerian village, but you're still moving across open ground. And you'd have to have larger maps due to the range of the units. So it could be done. But I just think there's more. We have more to work on. Yeah, Kazarine's good. More to work on than that at this time.
Cool. What about
there's a lot more low hanging fruit out there, basically.
At the moment, yes.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious of I don't know if it's already in there or whether or not there's a thought to it but I know there are plenty of examples in the war where there were special operations units, whether it's the SOE or the OSS or whatever, where they had basically almost squads of assaulting a factory or whatever, or something like that in the war. I can think of that. I don't know if that would ever be of interest for a last 100 yards kind of thing, of sort of a squad level fight for an objective of, like, a unit's trying to take out, you know, like a heavy, like what was it? I think there was a raid on a heavy water plant in Norway.
Norway. Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a one or two missions in the Pacific. One, some elite units are trying to come in and then knock out a radio station or a communication
okay.
station. And then once they do, then they have to try and escape.
Yeah. I mean,
yes,
I like
I'm looking at doing something in Italy. Somebody just want to know if I was
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
something
yeah.
in Italy, but
The soft underbelly. Yes, as Churchill said.
but you know, we've got 5 games in the progress, so you know, it may be a year or two before we can get to Italy. So
sure.
That's a shame.
I like to do something around casino.
Oh yeah.
Oh right. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Monte Casino. A lot of cool stuff there. A lot of potential for game wise.
Eves,
So-
that's actually the designer of Red Strike from VUCA Games. He's saying, yes, Norway 40 might be nice.
Yeah, Heroes of the Telemark. Which
There
you go.
Yeah.
Luca Joe.
Yep.
Yeah,
Stuka's always there.
yeah,
Finland,
You know,
Finland in the Winter War.
yeah.
That's the one thing,
unlimited,
like-
you know, it's kind of unlimited possibilities
Yeah.
when you really look
We
at
could
it.
go on.
So,
Yeah, Crete.
so when you're dealing it's I can tell you after several years, it's really a challenge to try and pick something really unique or different or create a new scenario or a mission because, you know, okay, you know, you can only attack so many villages or crossroads or hills or whatever. So, you know, you want to try and come up with something, a new wrinkle here and there.
Yeah.
What you don't
like,
want to do is put another era or another war or bit or whatever and just transfer all the rules across and just have different counters. You don't want that, do you? You want it to be a completely different feeling game every time you bring out
very unique.
a new
well,
one.
yeah, I mean, well, like the mission we just talked about, where, you know, if you got some elite units, that they have to come on and defeat the Japanese and take out the radio station. Well, in the meantime, they have to, once they take that out, they got to exit the board to the left. Well, about the time, and they have to roll to get the demo to go off, which might take 2 or 3 rolls. Well, in the meantime, there's reinforcements coming in from each end of the map from the Japanese. And so not only do I have to blow it, now I have to get off the left end of the map, which means I have to fight my way through that force in order to exit. So it's really more about finding different conditions or situations that are more interesting than just taking a hill or a village, for example. So
Very cool. Yeah, it's. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
No, I was gonna say, Nate, it seems like you're getting more interested in the system more than you were thinking at the time.
Yeah.
So
It's got hexes on the maps as well, Nate.
So let me talk briefly about armor. Armor, I think, is one of the, I thought particularly came out particularly well in the last 100 yards. Typically, it's pretty hard to model armor. Again, we cut the movement down into much smaller segments. You're not going to be moving an armor unit 20 hexes. You know, you're going to be moving in 4 or 5 at the most. And I wanted to feel for, I kind of found out after the fact, back earlier on, talking about self-preservation and the crew in the tank. You know, what would that tank commander do? And so tanks die quickly, okay? Which now you lose a tank, it goes on the casualty track. That's 3 casualty points. If you lose all of a sudden 3 tanks, then that's 9 casualty points. Whereas I could play a whole mission sometime and not lose a step of infantry, because if I disrupt, I have the opportunity to fall back, regroup, and get back in the fight. So casualties are much harder, you know, to come about on infantry than they are armor. So now you play your armor a little bit different as a commander, because they can cause you to lose the game real quick. The other thing I like about the armor and what we did is it's not just fire and move. You have a lot of tactical things you can do with armor. For maneuver, you have a normal maneuver, you have a reverse, you have a shoot and scoot, and a halt and fire, you have overwatch, and you have overrun. So from a tactical perspective, there's times in different times of play when you're going to use one of those maneuvers. So it's in the way, most tactical games, you if you're facing a particular hex side, you're facing that hex side for the whole game turn. Okay.
Yeah.
So in this particular case, for enfilade purposes, it's really about where the fire which hex side the fire exits or enters the hex determines the enfilade. So there's a couple examples. If I fire out hex side 1, okay, then that hex and the 2 adjacent hexes are my front. It's a 180. It's always 180. If I fire out 1 hex side and I call for reaction, and if there's somebody in my rear that can fire in reaction, but it's only within that platoon activation cycle. If you don't take that fire now, okay, then you won't get an enfilade later in the game turn. Okay, so it's when it occurs, because that tank commander, if he got a shot from the rear all of a sudden, he's going to make the adjustment. He's going to now turn to face the greatest threat. So it's really, so you have options. You have tactical options with tanks, not just move and fire.
Yeah.
For example, shoot and scoot. I can be on a ridge, okay, and maybe I'm a single tank. There's 3 or 4
It's on
tanks.
the table. Hold on. Get off.
There's
Right,
3 or
sorry.
4 tanks that's coming against me across the field. Okay. Well, I can declare a shoot and scoot. I can fire and back off to the back side of the hill, and you won't get a shot. Now, it affects my shot, okay? Because if I'm going to be, because I fired from an adjacent hex, it's going to -2 on my fire, but you won't get a shot. Same token, if I'm now behind the ridge, okay, and I'm in motion, I can do a halt and fire. I can move up onto the ridge, fire at you before you get to shoot, okay, suppress you, all right? Now, it's -2 on my fire, but it's also going to be -1. It's going to be -2 on your return fire because you're suppressed, okay? That's -1. And 2, I'm still in motion. So it's a way that the initiative player or even the reacting player can get the first shot and not have the initiative. Okay. So when you take examples of, there's a tiger at the crossroads. Well, the Americans, Sherman, we got a platoon of Shermans, they communicated by radio. You just didn't approach that tiger from the front. Okay. So, you now in the last 100 yards, I'll just kind of create a scenario, but you can do this easily in the game. The platoon leader sends us 2 tanks around the wood, go back here around the hill in the wood line. And he says, tell me when you're in position so you can see the tiger in the crossroads. Well, he gets over there and he radios back and he says, okay, I got him in my sights. He says, all right. So the platoon leader says, all right, we're going to pull out and we're going to fire. And when he turns, you take him in the rear. So all 5 American Shermans are in motion. They step out into the hex. So they now have line of sight to the tiger. They declare an enfilade fire. Okay. Because the fire is, no matter what, the fire is going to enter from 2 non-adjacent hex sides. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
One's going to get a rear shot no matter. So the tiger now, they've stepped out and fired. The tiger, before they fire, gets to declare which ones he's going to face. Well, he's going to face the 3 tanks, because that's a greater risk than the 2 tanks. Okay. So he made that decision. So the 2 tanks that are on one side are going to get an enfilade fire. The 3 tanks on the other are going to get a frontal fire. But the Tiger gets that option. Now, let's say, though, that the Americans were already in place. You had 2 tanks on one side and 3 on the other. Whereas if either fired, they would get an enfilade. But let's say in this particular case, the Tiger got to go first. Okay? Well, what the Tiger's going to do is he's going to, and there's a building, he's going to do a shoot and scoot, okay, at one of the 2 tanks and back into a position so that the 3 tanks can't see him.
Oh, nice.
So
Okay.
now the 2 remaining tanks that can see the Tiger, okay, one is suppressed, so his fire is going to be down 1, and it's down 1 because the Tiger's moving, okay, because the Tiger backed up. See, he still got a frontal. So those 2 tanks going to have a frontal shot, which their chances of penetrating are almost nil if they're Germans. So from a tactical perspective, again, you never know which one's going to get to go first. So you may jump out the Americans and maybe you didn't kill the Tiger, but he gets to go first next time. So there's a tremendous tactical ability with the armor, whereas in the past in other games, it's, I'm facing this 1 hex for the whole game turn. And, I have a T-34 and ASL that can move 18 X's, and he moves around already all the way around me and shoots me in the rear. You don't have that. Right. The other way you have enfilade is this. Again, you move small segments, only 4 or 5 hexes at most. As a tank moves, the last hex cross designates its front and rear. The last hex side crossed. So if I move and then I call for reaction, if there's an enemy tank now that I've given a side or rear shot, he's going to get the enfilade. So no longer can you have the ability to move way around somebody 16 times hexes and get a rear shot, because it's now really hard to move around somebody when you're only moving 4 or 5 hexes at a time without giving them the enfilade. So it's much more of a cat and mouse game. There are a lot of different types of maneuvers.
But and lots of options as well.
Yes.
What you can do.
Yeah. Well, I hate to end this, but we're over our time, and I'm going to be getting text here. We're going to be leaving soon for dinner. So.
I didn't realize we're going to.
I hear the cat.
Yeah, I apologize. Mrs. Ruff is now house sitting my daughter's house.
No, I love cats.
I know, but normally,
I have 2 of my own.
Normally, he's meow. They have 2 cats and a dog. Normally, Mrs. Ruff takes care of them, but that's why I've got Kit disappearing. But apologies. I'm on my own for the week with me boy.
Oh, that's cool, Eve.
Yeah.
Well, I've really enjoyed this, guys, and I hope you'll have me on again.
Definitely. We'll get some playing. Maybe what we'll do is we'll get all 4 of us together and we'll play a scenario or something, and you can help Nate, and then me and Ruff, and maybe we can just do a scenario.
That sounds fun. Let's do it.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get something scheduled for that. So
Mike, when we go off air, don't disappear straight away, because we'll just want a quick chat and say thanks afterwards. So stay online.
All right. With that, I want to thank everybody. Mike, thank you for coming on. Nate, Ruff, wonderful as always. And no show next week. It'll be probably 2 weeks before we have a show. I'm out for the whole day next Saturday. So
that's fine.
No
good.
No
I'm
show
glad,
next week.
I'm glad this time has made more options available, so we can have more shows. That's great.
All right. Thanks, see everyone. You guys later.
Thanks everyone in the chat. See you later.
End stream. I hit the wrong button.